So in today's video, it's a little bit different. We've got a guest with us, although we're actually his guest because we're with Alan Hart at your house to discuss this Viessmann 050. So obviously Alan's done a video on his channel. We donated this product as he wanted to fit one to do some explainers for his followers. And we're quite keen to get some videos done about the product. It's brand new to market. We want the guys who are fitting this to be fully trained and fully understand what's required to install one of these boilers. So Alan's midway through installing it now, he's nearly finished. We're just going to cover off some bits about this boiler. Just before we head into this video, if you are in the market for a new boiler, then head over to heatable.co.uk where you'll be able to get a fixed price to have a new boiler installed in your home in as little as 24 hours. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the latest content as it's released. Obviously, we started talking a while ago because we wanted you to fit this product, to give this sort of feedback and this information on how you found to install it, how you found it to install, sorry, and how you found the process of navigating a boiler that's not been on the market yet. So the instructions are challenging sometimes with Viessmanns, you've got to navigate them. And we obviously want to educate our guys and give them some further information. And one of your sort of missions is to help new people in the market, isn't it?
Try and, if I can, where possible, help raise the standards in the industry, explain to people why it's important to, for instance, flush boilers, flush systems, boiler breakdowns. A lot of time boiler breakdowns are to do with how they're installed.
Yeah.
So hopefully to help raise the standards a little bit. And videos like this I feel are really good because I can get the boiler, I can strip it down, I can look at all different components and try and give people advice on how to wire them correctly, how to flush them correctly.
Yeah.
Look at displays, how to put them into service mode. So a lot of my videos that get a lot of views are engineer videos where they're just explaining how to put a boiler into service mode,
Yeah.
high and low, for using flue gas analyzer, how to install flues correctly. So I did a video recently on the Ideal Vogue where we installed the flue, which has had quite a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
So I just try and if we can, help raise standards in industry.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting and is valuable to us. Obviously, we have a lot of guys who start out, they're gas engineers now, maybe working for someone else, and they want to come and fit boilers. Platforms like Heatable are good for getting your feet off the ground, getting you some work, but obviously we want a really good standard of job, so we ideally want to start working with people like yourself to say, can we do some videos and some explainers about the products that we fit, best practice, making sure they're being installed to the MIs and knowing what you need to know to be able to install that boiler, but also to service that boiler. Obviously, once we've fitted that product, the boiler's going to need servicing. So the guys, we're happy for them to go back and service these boilers. They can have that customer, if you like, from there on, but they're going to need to know this boiler and understand how to navigate it, how to service it and look after it for its life, isn't it? So
I think it's really good as well that when you install a boiler for a customer, you don't get a lot of time with that boiler to mess about and play with it and understand it correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas I've got this now in my house, in my garage, and I can spend time on doing videos on different parts of it.
Yeah.
So if there's some, you know, how to wire open firm or how to wire a Weber comp, etc., I can just do a short video on it just to help people into industry, which I think's really good and benefits people.
Definitely, yeah, and I think if you can bring the standard up in general, I think obviously Viessmann products, they're a very, very good product, but their market share is quite shallow in the UK, isn't it? So a lot of guys haven't actually touched a Viessmann boiler before, so especially on the old model of this, where it was a volt-free switch only, guys used to blow them up all the time. They blow the PCBs up because they put 230 through the PCB. This has changed now, but I still think it's good. Obviously, the best thing to do is to get on a Viessmann training course, which now the COVID thing is starting to wrap up, or potentially getting worse, in November 2021. There are courses you can do, but videos like this are just to help guys through installing one of these products, for you to give us some feedback on how you found this boiler, because we fit a lot of these and you've almost had like a really unique experience here where you're sort of a customer and the installer. So you've got to install the product, which is what one of our guys would do, but this is in your home. Yeah. So you're going to be able to live with this boiler, get used to some of its quirks or some of its challenges. You're going to be able to service the product. And obviously we've said to you, look, we're happy for you to take this apart, rip it apart, do whatever you want to do and talk about it, which we can do now. So we'll cover some bits and some of your thoughts on what you think about this Viessmann 050. So we're just going to run through what we supplied Alan as part of a standard kit that Heatable would give one of our engineers. So first things first, obviously we gave him the boiler. This is an 050 30 kilowatt vertical flue kit. So we would look at the photos and determine how many flue lengths and what was needed to do that vertical flue. We've give a AD Pro 3 filter. This is the monitored filter, which we'll cover off in a second. You get some pipe. You get your chemicals, MC1, MC3, you get some fittings, and you'd also get an EPH Compipack 4 with a nice little Heatable logo on. And obviously you've installed all these products, so we're just going to run through that now. So Alan's done a full video, which we'll put a link in our description to, which is about installing one of these products, and it's a full in-depth video. Obviously we're not going to go over everything today because you've already done it. We're just going to cover off a couple of basic bits. So obviously getting it on the wall, it's relatively straightforward. It's just a bracket at the top on these, isn't it? Yeah. And it hooks on. One of the challenges you had, which some guys have reported, is you can commission this boiler via the VI Start, isn't it? Sorry, app. It didn't work for you, did it?
It kept on giving us an error code with it. So what I did was I used the manual
sheet. So you do get a sheet in the box, don't you? So you can commission it from the front panel. If you do it from the app, that means you can connect it to the customer's Wi-Fi. So what that allows this product to do is it can be monitored by Viessmann or by yourself. So if you do it via the app and you connect it up, you can always have visibility on the product. So, and what Viessmann are trying to do with that is they want to be able to see fault codes and errors with the boiler so they can book a service visit before it actually breaks down.
Yeah. So you've just got to be, as an engineer, as an installer, sometimes you can just put boilers on wall and they'll just work out of the box, and this is just a little bit different. You do need to make sure you read that check sheet.
Because you have to tell it the gas,
yes,
the flue, yeah. You have to tell it
how it's controlled as well.
If it's an open firm or not.
Open firm, weather comp. Or just on off.
Yeah, and then you have to set the actual flue as a room sealed flue, don't you, as well?
Yeah.
Which is a bit odd.
Yeah, but it is quite easy once you do a few of them, because I've done them on 100 at 111. It is quite easy. You just go through and it's already pre-selected.
Right.
What it might be or what you'd expect it to be.
Right.
So you can just click OK and go through it.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you want to change the setting to a different control that you're using, then you have to
go back in.
Change that.
Yeah.
You can go back in and reset it if you needed to as well, which isn't book showing you how to do that.
I think that's the benefit of the app as well, is that you can do it quickly from the app, can't you? So you can change one of the parameters pretty quick on the app. We spoke to Viessmann about some of the issues they're having with connecting to this, and apparently it's just a bit of a software issue on Apple devices. So I did one the other week with an Apple device and struggled with it. There's an update coming around Christmas time and it should fix it. Most of the time it does work. Obviously, sod's law in this case, it didn't work for you, but there is always a backup method, and Viessmann do give you that sheet, don't they? So it's pretty easy to navigate. So obviously it's on the wall now. It's not finished entirely yet, isn't it? Because you're doing some further videos about flushing and about setting up the product and your condense and all that kind of stuff. But what we'll do now is we'll take the cover off, take a quick look inside, and you can run through some bits that you like and think that you might be useful for the customer.
Yeah.
Cool. Need an erect centipede to get the case off. Available in all good pet shops. So we've taken the case off the front of the boiler, and we're just saying then, obviously we've done a separate video about this product from a consumer perspective. So if you want to watch a review on that, you can see that on our channel. We've just come here today just to run through what Alan thinks of this product. We were just discussing then something just really quick for engineers and consumers, If you want to go for the Viessmann VI Care thermostat, where you can control the boiler via a smartphone, it's sort of Wi-Fi to the product, and you need to scan a barcode or a QR code to get the app to work on your phone. For some strange reason, Viessmann put the QR code for this on the inside of the boiler. There's a sticker reel with multiple stickers on. What I'd say to any engineer fitting one of these products is just take one of these stickers and stick it on top of the case. Obviously, if the customer adds the VI Care thermostat at a later date, they're still going to need a gas engineer to unwire whatever controller it's on now, and the case is going to be off anyway to do that. However, if the customer maybe loses the app, changes the phone, and they need the QR code again, it's going to be a bit of an expensive visit for a consumer to get that QR code if it's on the inside of the boiler, because you're not allowed to take the case off a boiler unless you're a gas engineer, as you told me off for then. So obviously when we came up earlier, I said, what did you think of it then? And you said, I like it, there's a couple of bits I'm not that keen on. So do you want to just give us your feedback, honest feedback about it? This is the 30 kilowatt model, it comes in 25 and 30. But what do you think, how did you find fitting it, and what are the bits you like and the bits you don't like about it?
Yeah, one thing I do like is copper pipes now. So we did have an issue, or sometimes on some systems with old boiler had rubber hoses in.
Yeah.
And we did have an issue with them. Hopefully now with copper pipes this should be a lot better, makes the boiler a lot better. Everything's easy to work on, which is really good. One thing I don't really like is there's a little bit of a gap at side when you put it on wall.
Yeah.
Like a 5mm gap, which ideally that would be better if it went back to wall.
Or the wall, yeah.
I can understand the reasoning behind that, because when you're installing boilers on a wall, sometimes the walls are not exactly straight. So maybe that's the reason that they've had to do that.
Because if the case twisted, maybe the front panel won't sit on 100% flat or whatever.
Yes, like some older boilers that we used to install, you used to put the jig on first, and then you'd put the boiler onto the jig, but then it won't marry up.
Right.
Because the walls are slightly out.
Yeah.
And they are normally slightly out walls. You don't normally get a perfectly...
Yeah, flat wall.
You might do in this case, because I've made a flat wall, but
yeah,
normally you won't get a flat wall. And then the filling loop, that's a good thing. So it's got an inbuilt filling loop now.
Same as the 100 boiler.
Same as the 100, so it's like, that's better than using just any old
separate filling loop. Yeah, previously we've had a separate one on it, wouldn't we?
I'm not so keen on the pressure gauge, if I'm honest. It would be better if it were
on show,
somewhere you can see it on show. I think it could easily get damaged as well.
I think there is a menu option. You can see the pressure, can't you? Yes. In the menu, if you scroll through, and it displays it just in a digital 1.7 bar, 1.5 bar. But I know what you mean. A lot of customers, they don't even want to touch these controls because they're just going to be turning it on by their controller, and it's very time consuming to get a customer to run through a menu. It's nice just to have a quick access reference point for the pressure gauge. I know what you mean. It's a little bit small. It looks a bit flimsy as well, doesn't it? It doesn't look like the best thing, but there is obviously that secondary control.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it looks like a nice boiler. I've noticed that the plate is different on it as well. The plate heat exchanger, I think it's a bigger
plate now.
Heat exchanger now. And
then this hydro block here as well. Viessmann were telling us I've just thought of something. You mentioned the shock arrestor before.
Yeah.
Right, I've remembered. The reason it doesn't need a shock arrestor is because that's rated to something stupid like 300 PSI.
Right, okay.
So that's why it hasn't got a shock arrestor, because you can fit an on-return valve on these, because that transducer there is quite sensitive to firing the boiler if you get a bit of backflow. I just remembered that now. That's brilliant. That's funny. Right, there we go. But that's new and improved as well. That's all been done on this model. I think the pump's the same as the 100.
Right.
I think it's the same sort of one, and it's got this new Lamba Pro.
I mean, it's all easy to get to. It's all easy to work on inside. I'm not always a lover of plastic components in boilers because of some of the older boilers, but personally I've never known of any issues with any Viessmann plastic
in
boilers.
We don't get many issues at all. I tell you something else as well, that if you'd have fitted this on a horizontal flue, previously Viessmann's horizontal flues were very, very tall.
Yeah.
So if that was in a cupboard, it would always end up sitting below the cupboard. There's a new flue out now which makes it shallow.
The depth of it's small as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller now.
It's a lot smaller.
So it is a cupboard fit boiler now, more than the older one.
Yeah, and you mentioned the valves, saying you didn't really like the valve bodies, did you? Because they're designed for a jig, really, or a rear framed pipe sort of rig. Yeah. So that's quite common. So I think like in the German market, they generally fit everything with like a rear or a pipe jig before, and then they just connect on. UK market's a little bit different. You can get a rear frame for these. We were discussing earlier, weren't we, about rear frames. This is now 307 millimeters deep, is it?
Yeah.
Most cupboards are what, 310? Yeah, so it should go into a cupboard. You've got to have some clearances on the front, but if your pipes on your boiler drop from the top, you need that spacer frame, don't you?
Or you'd have to take pipes downside of it.
Yeah, which never looks great, does it? Because you end up sort of like bunching around the side. So that's another consideration. Like, so the Worcesters are quite good for that, because they've got these channels in, and you never need to worry about buying an external component, and the depth of the product's never going to change. With a Viessmann, if they drop from the top, it's not pretty rare really, isn't it? But if it does happen, you end up with that spacer frame. You can as well, if you do go for the spacer frame, you can get a lower pipe cover as well. I don't think it looks great personally. I think this is quite a good looking boiler now. You've obviously seen the previous 050s and the previous 100s. This to me looks like the 200 range. They've got this new flat case with a diamond finish, diamond edges with a sort of sparkly finish on it, and they seem to have come on a long way. I think one of the things about this product as well is we're finding it not difficult, but there's not a lot of mileage now between a 50 and a 100. Previously, there was a big difference between those two products, because the 50 had the rubber hose, which you mentioned a minute ago. The 50 had the little sort of really small display. The 50 came in two sizes, 29 and 35. This one now comes in 25 and 30. And it just wasn't, the plate was a bit sort of sketchy, wasn't it? It wasn't a bad plate, but it could block quite easily. Now, this is so close to a 100. The only real reason I think you would buy a 100 is you need a 35 kilowatt, but that boiler is deeper because the heat exchange is deeper, and it's a little bit more efficient. So I can't remember the exact modulation ratios. From memory, I have to double check it. I think the 100 is about 1 in 10, and I think this is 1 in 6. Right. Previously it was 1 in 4 and 1 in 6. So a lot of customers are asking that now, which is about why would I buy a 100? And it's, to be honest, you're probably going to be fine every single day of the week with an 050. How have you wired this? Have you put it into the switch live, or have you put it in?
So I've used the control, the EPH control.
Yeah.
And I've wired it on OpenFirm.
Into 1 and 2.
Into 1 and 2 on here, and that's really easy to wire. It comes with a pre-done lead as well, so you just connect that to live and neutral and earth.
Yeah.
And then the OpenFirm side, you just do it into the low voltage. So it's really simple to wire.
Because that was on the old one. That block used to be on this left-hand side, and you could only wire it on low voltage. Yeah,
so you can do 240 on this as well.
Yeah.
On the older one as well, when it was under here, sometimes it used to just fall off and dangle down, and people would see wires dangling down.
Yeah.
And they'd be really worried about that.
Yeah, we've had a few.
Even though it was low voltage and it's not going to cause any problems at all. Obviously, if you've got wires dangling down from a boiler, it doesn't look very good.
No, we had that a couple of times where customers panicking, or like even sometimes, well, again, rare product, service engineers turn up, you've got a live wire there. It does cause some issues. Now it's in, it was all certificated that, and it was all right. I don't think it was a great idea having it externally last time. It's now internally, so there's obviously no problems. We fitted about, I can't remember the exact figure, but over 3,000 of those previous 050s in about an 18-month period, and we've not really had many issues with them. They've been really good boilers. I think the quality, well, the way the quality's gone now to this new product, I think it's going to be bulletproof. We have had one, I think, so far where that transducer's failed out of the box, but it's one boiler, it's pretty, and they were out the same day and they sorted it out. Apart from that, they've been pretty bomb-proof. So you're going to do some more stuff on this, aren't you? Like Alan's done a whole separate video about your install.
Yeah.
It's going to be much more in depth compared to what we've talked about today. And you're going to do some other stuff, aren't you, where on your channel, on YouTube, you're going to be taking this apart and playing around with it. Like I said before, it's really good that you have installed this product, so you've had an experience of us supplying you a kit, and it's a standardised kit and what we would expect. We sent you a spec and said, this is how we would like it done, this is how we would score this job. You fitted it, but also you're the end user, so there's going to be customers who are watching this video who are interested in this product. You can give them their honest opinion on how you get on with it, and if it works.
How do you think I've installed it out of 10?
We would score this very highly, I'd say. Obviously you've not finished your gas run yet, but it's all really good. I know you've mentioned this on your video, but just in case, I will just cover it again. One thing that's really strange on Viessmann boilers as well is you don't screw the flues.
Yeah.
But they come with a hole where you would put a self-tapper.
Also as well, it doesn't have a flue clamp on top of there.
Right.
That's something that catches people out a lot.
Because a Worcester has a vertical flue adapter, doesn't it?
Almost all boilers will have some sort of clamp.
Right.
That it looks like it's the correct fitting, but this is just an actual cut edge that slots onto the top of the boiler.
Right.
So I did, a very large company had been pulling some flues from Viessmann.
Right.
Because they thought they hadn't been installed correctly.
Right.
But they had, so yeah, something to look out for as well.
It's to do with thermal expansion, isn't it? I think that's what Viessmann say. It's just something worthwhile noting if you are an installer, because especially if you fit for a platform like us, this is quite a short vertical flue, but that kit would probably still be 150, 200 quid. Most vertical flue kits cost us about £300 to buy. If you install that and you screw every single bend and every single bit, it's gonna need replacing, because unfortunately it's not a compliant install, and Gas Safe or the next service engineer will go out and they'll just isolate the product, which is obviously no good. So the only thing we haven't mentioned is the Pro 3.
Yeah.
Because you said I don't really understand this. As a one-off installer, I understand that there's not a great benefit for it in terms of, other than monitoring your own system. So if you've got customers on cover plans and you service those products every year, it's peace of mind for the consumer that you'll get an alert if there's a problem with their system. A bit like with the boiler being connected to Wi-Fi and Viessmann coming out if they think a sensor's going to fail. You can also keep an eye on water quality. It's a great product for us because it's essentially a Pro 2 filter with this connectivity piece on the front of it. What it allows us to do as a business is monitor the quality of the installs.
So I see it as just a gimmick, and
yeah,
I don't really see the point of it, but having listened to what you said about it and that you can monitor the installs,
yeah,
that can only be a good thing, because that means that you know that the person that's installed the boiler has flushed the system correctly and they have put some inhibitor in, and the install is as good as it can be.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's good.
It's a good bit of kit. Obviously they're expensive to buy compared to a regular filter, but if you are a one-off installer and you have some customers on cover plans and you look after their boilers, it's not a bad thing to fit in their home. They're doing a small version of it as well. It's going to come out that works on a 3G chip, so it's a little bit easier to set up, because they can be a bit tricky to set up them. But they're great for us as a business, just from a quality perspective. It's just good to know that there's a way we can audit water quality when we're not physically on site, obviously because we're a platform. And also, if there is an issue with the water, we can address it with the customer. So if you are an engineer on the site, let's say you've recently bought this property, haven't you? So let's say you moved in full of sludge and we appointed you to come and fit a boiler here and the water was terrible. We would say to you as an engineer, give us a call and let us know so we can speak to the customer about other options they've got. The worst thing you can do is connect it to a really bad system, because it's a brilliant boiler, but it's not going to last 2 minutes, is it?
And that's the same with any boiler.
Yeah.
It needs to be installed correctly. If you flush a system correctly when you install it, no matter what boiler it is, it's going to last longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think I think what would be good is you're going to do some more videos on the product. Your video's now live on the channel about installing this boiler, isn't it? But you're going to go into some further details, aren't you? Obviously, this obviously isn't a gas one. I was joking. This is your contraption for flushing,
Yes.
which we're quite keen on. We've supplied you some chemicals, haven't you, which you're going to do some bits on. And apart from that, obviously, it's not really a product review this, it's just talking some basics about the product and about what it's like to install. Obviously, we're keen to learn as much as we can from Alan and just give guys free advice for installing Viessmann products and making sure you're doing compliant installs. So I think that's it for today. We've got nothing else to cover unless you want to go anything else.
No, just all I'd like to say is thank you for providing the boiler, because this will definitely help a lot of the new people into the industry and people that are going to fit a Viessmann boiler for the first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, just thank you very much.
No problems at all. It's been a pleasure. Fantastic. Cheers, guys.